Good morning, non-technical founders. Welcome to today's Q&A. I'm gonna start by reading the questions. I haven't seen them. Let's see what happens, and I'm gonna improvise here. I don't have the money for a CTO. How can I hire a great developer? I have one friend that's a good prospect, but what are the questions I should be asking to know if she's a good fit? A lot of questions there. The first thing is, I don't know if it's a good idea for you to try and hire a developer if you don't have the money for a CTO. It's important that you understand that when you hire software development to create custom software, it is gonna be expensive. It is not trivial. It's not something that's gonna come naturally, and it's not as easy as creating a spreadsheet and doing calculations, right? So the first thing is, if you don't have the money to build custom software, maybe you shouldn't build custom software. You should try and iterate your products in other ways, generate traction, and then raise funds, right? But if your friend, if she's interested in becoming your co-founder, then you might be in a good place, right? Just beware of the uncommitted part-time technical co-founder. The uncommitted part-time technical co-founder is one of the worst situations a non-technical founder can get into, right? If she's gonna join you, might be using her nights and evenings to do the work, right? But she needs to be really, really, really committed to your startup in the long term. The worst thing that can happen if you find a technical founder is that he or she works for 3 months in your project, everything seems great, and then she takes a job at Uber because she needed the money, right? That's something you need to be pretty careful with. Next question. My investor says I should hire a designer and that it will save me a lot of money in the long run. But how can a designer be more helpful than more developers that will give me code right away? Is my investor right, or should I go with more devs? First of all, it really depends on your business, but in general, as a general guideline, having designers and developers working together, not separately, is mandatory, almost always mandatory for early stage startups. For example, if you hire a developer to create your screens and then you hire a developer to build the screens that were created, you're probably gonna run into trouble because implementing the design might be harder, or you're gonna need to ask questions and request changes to the designer during the development process because of changes that happen either on your business or on your product requirements, right? So having that tight integration and intimacy, I might say, between designers and developers is really important. Answering your question about your investor, it sounds like you don't have a designer yet. So if you have no designers and already have developers, you probably want designers to hire the first designer before hiring more devs. The reason for that is that user experience and great design is so important in product development that you could add, with more developers, you could add a ton of features in a product that's not optimized in terms of UX. And so people won't use probably what you build with more developers unless you have a great design and great user experience. sometimes I have a rough time communicating with my tech team. Yeah, I empathize with that. Often the feature I ask does work, but not exactly in the way it was supposed to work. Is it them or me? Do you have any tips on making better feature requirements? Yes, it's probably them, but it's better if you think it's you, right? Because I'm kidding when I say it's probably them, but it's my view, it's my opinion that developers should be really, really great at figuring out requirements and building the bridge between business and development and product, right? So that's why I say it's probably them. But if you're a founder, you're in that situation, right? What's probably lacking in your process is a great definition of done, because they shouldn't be moving on to other features before the ones they already started are working as expected, right? You should say, okay, this is not acceptable. Today's work needs to be redone in to work as expected, right? And not move on to other things. So in that sense, it's something you can do, you need to do. You just need to tell them, okay, let's not do the next feature, let's redo this one. And it might take you more time, but it will definitely build a great culture surrounding quality and around, yeah, making sure you're building software that works and that real people are using it. Google for Startups channel on YouTube has a great video where an experienced non-technical founder says, outsourcing is the natural state of a startup. What's your take on that? I think I actually saw this video, and I don't think the idea of being the natural state is clear enough. But what I understand about that is that outsourcing things that are not your core business, that's what I think the video meant. It's pretty important and will save you the time to focus on what's the core business of your startup. A great example would be, for example, if Uber hired a marketing agency to create their ads, their banner ads that they do both offline and online, instead of having the marketing team doing this internally. It's not Uber's core business to create ads, but it is Uber's core business to have culture and a marketing strategy that enables them to outsource that, right? I don't know if that's the best example for early stage startups, so I'm gonna try again and say, if you're trying to build an email marketing tool, right, and you want people to sign up to your product, you might have to make a decision between hiring external customer support or doing it internally, for example. And that really depends if customer support is at the core of your values or not. And if it's not, maybe it's a good idea to outsource and focus on great UX, for example, which might be the core value of your product, right? I have a business idea and I'm considering hiring a dev shop. What are the questions I should be asking them to know if they are solid? I think the first thing you should do, if of course you're looking for a specific dev shop, you already know them, is you should talk to their past customers. That's really important. Ask them for past customers, and then ask the hardest questions to the customers, right? For example, how was the communication between the team? How did they miss deadlines and only communicated when the fact was already consummated, right? Or did they keep a great communication even when they missed a deadline? They were 2 steps ahead of you and keeping you in the loop. This is a great thing. Or did the software work? Which is something that's really important. So what I would do is that I would ask all the questions to the firm I'm considering hiring, but I would ask the hardest questions to their clients, their past clients. But there's one specific question I would like you to ask to every dev shop you encounter, and that is, do your devs juggle multiple projects at the same time? Because if they do, they'll probably be switching contexts between many projects, and that's gonna impair their productivity. And I would look for a dev shop that have full-time developers working for your startups. And that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching these questions, for sending watching these answers and sending your questions. And I really want you to join us at nontechnicalfounder.com, nontechnicalfounders.com, so we can have a deeper conversation, and we can really talk about the issues non-technical founders have in very specific ways. Today's questions were very specific. I loved it. But we can get deeper inside nontechnicalfounders.com. So please join us and keep great questions. See you soon.